Welcome back to obviously Fight Talk, and if you're watching on YouTube, you will see we are joined by the gentleman Daniel Movahedi, and this is Referee's Corner.
I've got a cap on today, yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What? Oh, don't you start. Get out of work.
What did you? Deadly.
What?
That was a good impression.
What? I don't even watch wrestling. Dan, UFC 217 was not without controversy this weekend. So we thought we've got the best in the business. Let's get them on. So Dan, I want to talk first. We're going to go to Reddit, Dan. You put up a post on Reddit just saying that you were going to be appearing on obviously Fight Talk. So a couple of questions came in, and these are sort of everything that we wanted to ask as well. So what was your take on Walt Harris's head kick of Godbeer? Inexcusable or honest mistake? And did the referee not assert himself enough? And that comes from Caused Manatee.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask this question about... where, you know, a lot of people not blaming the ref, but they were saying, oh, well, the ref should have stepped in there, etc. Like, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, it's always down to the ref, and we always seem to get the blame for it. I thought Blake Grice, the referee, done a good job. Listen, at the end of the day, when a command by a referee, i.e. time, stop, break, is shouted out, it's down to that fighter also to listen to those instructions and to those commands. You know, I'm not being funny. Walt Harris is a seasoned fighter. He knows when a referee calls time, you know, that's okay. Shit, I've got to stop. Especially when it was an accidental foul, and then when he threw that head kick, it wasn't as if he was throwing that head kick when Blake called time. You know, he called time, then he threw that head kick. You know, it wasn't halfway through the action. You know. For throwing that kick, so I thought Blake was in the right place. If anything, he nearly got caught with that head kick as well, just the way as he stepped in. I thought he done a good job, and it was the right call. You know, everyone's. And the thing that annoyed me about this one is, again, like reading on social media, people going, Godbeer didn't want to fight, he wussed out and all that. But at the end of the day, first of all, it was the doctor, you know, who called it off. Let's get that clear, and obviously then end up being a DQ. You can't say what Godbeer was thinking at the time, whether he didn't want to fight or did want to fight. He wasn't feeling himself, and the doctors saw that, and they're the guys who called it. So people jumping on social media saying, he looked for an easy way out. Trust me, that was a full-on head kick, and we all saw it, you know. So I thought it was a good call. Yeah,
so with the basically afterwards, this is Black to Back asked this, a follow-up question to the first question there, Dan. Was it handled correctly afterwards, as in, is the decision right? Godbeer by DQ?
I thought so, yeah. And, you know, regardless of if it was instant replay or not, I think Blake or the referee had already made his mind up anyway. Yeah. You know, if you continue with something after you've called time or after you've called stop, and like I said, it wasn't as if he was midway through throwing that kick. He threw that kick after the referee had called time, you know. It's a hard one to call, man. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, you know.
Yeah. Follow-up.
I thought it was the right decision.
Follow up with a different fight. Curtis Blaydes taking on Oleksiy Oliynyk.
Yep, Olynyk.
Olynyk here. This was a hard-fought fight. Two of them are going heavy. Curtis, you could argue, was having the better of it. Looked like he was on his way to winning the fight. And Olynyk was on the ground. As he was getting up, Blaydes threw a kick that flicked the ear of Olynyk. The referee called time. I think same referee, Blake Bryce.
Yeah, he didn't have an easy night.
Yeah. So with this one, New York have adapted the replay. So once they go to replay, fight's over. Yeah. There's no coming back from it. Fight's over. So Blake went out. They had a look. He said, he clipped him, hit the ear, but came back in, and the doctor had called, waved the fight off, saying Olynyk is unable to continue.
Yeah.
At first, you could see Curtis Blaydes look like he thought, shit, I'm getting DQ'd here. Yeah. It was KO, TKO, doctor stoppage. You asked me, I asked you this in the WhatsApp question. I gave you my long-winded answer, and you didn't even reply to me, Dan.
I did. I said, great, we'll discuss it on the show.
Excellent.
True professional.
So I gave my opinion, but let's not tell people that I know everything. So, why was it called a TKO doctor stoppage and not a DQ or a no contest?
Well, because again, let's just take it back a second. When they went back to the replay, yeah, you saw, he acknowledged, yeah, it was a kick, and you even heard the commentators going, it was flick of the ear and all that. And again, going back to people jumping on the bandwagon, again, people need to realise it was the doctor who didn't let the fight continue. And then again, as a referee also, and I'm sure the doctors, the physicians sitting cage side, or octagon side, would be looking up the lead up to that point as well. He would, like you said, the outcome more than likely would have been the same because he took a lot of punishment before that anyway. And it was the doctor who said he couldn't continue. And it wasn't due to that, like you said, the flick to the ear with the kick. It was due to the other damage that was done to him prior to that from the punches, the kicks, etc. And yeah, referee realised that, he knew that it wasn't due to that. That's the reason the doctor called the fight off for TKO. So yeah, that's, it's a hard one to call because I can see where people are going, well, at the end of the day, he was still a down fighter and he shouldn't have thrown that kick. But that's not the reason he was unable to continue. It wasn't that made the outcome of that fight. It wasn't due to that strike.
The commentators on the call as well said that they need to look at where the kick was thrown. They were saying it's possible that he was thrown for the body because we see that an awful lot when they throw for the body while they're standing up, or while they're standing up they throw for the head because they think they're going to stand. So that's probably other things that the referee would look at as well.
Yeah, it's a hard one, and I'm glad that, it's funny, isn't it? Like you said, it's only not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, that New York State Athletic Commission brought in the replays, and Sod's law has it that two things happen that they have to go to the replay thing, which I thought was used quite good, and you saw Big Dan there as well, and Mark Ratner there, so it was nice to see everyone working together and making sure that it was used in the right way.
Essentially, the Olynyk one for me was like as if the fight ended, and he was in the corner and he said the doctor waved it off in between rounds. That's basically what this was.
DQ'd.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Thoughts, this is coming from Hang Me. Thoughts on Mickey Gall constantly grabbing the cage and gloves. Would you have taken a point for all those fouls?
I don't know unless I was in the cage. But yeah. I got to give it right. Listen, at the end of the day, it's down to the referee's discretion, right? Mm-hmm. But I will say this: as a fan watching it, I was getting a bit frustrated. Not because whether the referee wasn't taking a point away, but it's just like I just hate fighters who try dirty tactics. Yeah. He knows he was having fingers inside that glove, and it was bad. The one that really stood out for me, forget the fingers in the glove, is the one when he pulled himself up with the cage and went into the guillotine choke. Yeah. That for me was like, okay, you used an illegal technique or illegal rule set of holding the cage and using that to improve your position, and then he went for that guillotine. It's like, okay, you got to that guillotine point by holding that cage and trying to maneuver your position, which for me, I would have reset them back into the position they were at before that guillotine was on. So
after how many fouls, if you were just in that situation, when would you have taken a point? After how many times?
Maybe I wouldn't have taken. Maybe I wouldn't have taken a point. Maybe I would have called time and had a word with him and gone, look, man, I warned you a couple of times now. Trust me, it happens again, I am taking a point away. End of. I definitely would have had some words with him. But everyone's different.
Do you think there should be a bit more with referees pulling fighters aside instead of just in the middle of a fight? Because I'm sure a lot of the time the fighters don't hear it. Maybe the referee says, "I'm going to warn you," but actually taking them aside.
I think he would have heard it, because if he didn't hear it, if you give a fighter a shot, take your hands out of the gloves, stop holding the gloves. If he didn't hear it, he would have just left his hands in there.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So he must have heard it for him to take them hands out of them gloves and for him to carry on. And, even his opponent was shouting to the ref or saying, look, he's holding my gloves, and that's when the referee was like, look, let go of the gloves, etc. But yeah, I've done it before, and I usually, for example, again, keep going back to Goddard, but you've seen him do it. If the illegal manoeuvre is done or illegal elbow is thrown, it calls time, and he both fires, and he says to them, look, man, I'm not going to warn you again. Watch how you're picking your shots. Watch where you're landing your shots, and as the fights continue. So he makes, as a referee, you got to make sure you let the fighters know that, look, I've given you a final warning. I don't want to deduct a point, and I don't, but if I have to, I will. This is your last option.
Yeah. Wuva Groova Flame will have the last question for us on Reddit. In reference to Bisbing's cup issue, what is the protocol for major equipment malfunction like rips, shorts, damaged gloves, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, look, and at the end of the day, as far as I know, there's nothing in the rule set saying what, you know, so you have to come in with your mandatory stuff. So you have to walk in with your groin guard for males. Females don't have to. And obviously you have to have gloves that have been signed off by the commission. And same with the groin guard. The groin guard's got to be checked by the commission as well. Yeah. So they have to make sure the cup's like not broken prior to that, prior to the fight, that the straps are all done up properly. And what was it that went wrong with his cup? It was the strap that broke,
yeah,
correct?
It looked like the strap, and so it was just sitting in his
Okay,
shorts.
so then that's no fault of. I mean, who knows? I mean, it might again. That's what I'm saying. So we don't know if the commission did check that cup, or if the string or the elasticate section was already damaged, or did it happen during the fight? Because there was no illegal blow that made that snap or the cup break, etc. So it is a malfunction. As you saw, John McCarthy just kind of put it back in and we'll deal with it how as it goes along. If it happened to me, I would have say you couldn't continue, and within that 1 minute they couldn't replace the box, etc. Then I guess it would have gone down to no contest. That being said, if it's a 5-round fight and 3 rounds have been completed and this happened in the 4th round, we could have gone to the judges' scorecards and done it that way. But again, it wasn't GSP's fault, it wasn't Bisping's fault, just something that happens, maybe going forward. I know Bellator do this with the gum shields, that fighters have to have 2 gum shields by the cage side. So if a gum shield does go out for whatever reason, it goes into outside the fighting area and you're trying to scramble, finding it, whatever, you got a second one in place. Maybe you should have 2 groin guards in place. So maybe there should be a mandatory rule set of what type of groin guard, whether it's the box goes into the shorts or you wear a slip-on cup or whatever. There's so many different groin guards out there. But again, it has to be checked. But I hope that somehow answers the question.
Yeah, just one question on that. Ultimately, is it the referee's decision to choose the result, or does he confer with the commission in that situation? Obviously, it's hard to tell because it never really happened. But who?
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I would like to think that I would confer with the other referees outside as well. Yeah. But I think, like I said, if it was in a 5-round fight, obviously the fight can't continue without a groin guard. Let's put it like that. So if the fight can't continue, but again, it's no fault of his own.
Yeah, it's
just the wardrobe malfunction, so to speak. I mean, would you do, for example, here's another one just before we go. Would you do if a woman fighter, her bra strap or her thingy snaps off? Would you do? Do you carry a second one case side to have a wardrobe change for her to continue? It's such a grey area that no one knows. Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah, it's a weird one.
One final question, actually, Dan. I want to sneak it in. Joe Duffy, James Vick was stopped with 1 second to go in the second round. For me, looking at it, now I know I'm watching through Irish eyes. I appreciate that. But for me, I just felt Joe Duffy was just retaining guard. He done the knee shield, just pulling it into back into full guard. Was it stopped correctly for you? I know you will tell me. I know because I've been talking with you and working with you for so long. I know you'll tell me, number one, referees do not pay attention to how long is left on the clock. They look at the fighter's safety. See, sometimes I pretend not to know everything. But do you agree with the stoppage, or do you think maybe hindsight, he was retaining guard, that maybe he should have got to see the 3rd round?
Right at the time, I thought it was a good stoppage. And again, like you said, I say that referee. It's not down to the referee to know when. Obviously we know when the 10-second clapper goes, but we're not there to. We don't go, oh look, there's a minute left. Sorry, there's a second left. We just let it go to the next round. No, because he took a shot and he did look dazed. And who knows? Yeah, Joe Duffy was pulling guard, but again, is that just a normal reaction because he's been training that? It's just how his body works. He just goes into autopilot. He knows what he needs to do. We can't see the eyes, we can't see what the referee's seeing, but I thought it was a good stoppage. Just, it happens. I've stopped fights with like 2 seconds to 3 seconds to go, and people have gone, he could have let it go second. I'm not there to make it go second round. I'm there to protect the fighter, or should I say, we're there to protect the fighters, and the referee obviously at the time deemed that he needed to stop the fight and save any further damage or punishment to Joe.
Tell you, Danny, the busy night with the recap. Normally we throw one incident at you, but there was a lot of incidents at the UFC. A great card. Great to have you to clear up any of these discrepancies in what people thought official-wise, or just to get the actual knowledge of what the commission is looking for, the referee is looking for. So as always, Dan, an absolute pleasure to chat with you, my man.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys next Bama.
Friday.
Looking forward to it, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're flying home on Saturday?
I'm flying home on Saturday. It's my boy's birthday, so I'll be flying home.
Excellent.
Early Saturday.
Okay. Well,
I'll stay out for a cup of coffee and maybe a Guinness.
Yeah, maybe. Dan, I look forward to sitting with you and having a chat with you in person and not having to look at the Skype. And
be a pleasure.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, man. Look forward to seeing you.
Man.
Safe trips, safe travels when we see you then. Take care. Daniel Movahedi.
Take care.
The gentleman by name, the gentleman by nature.